Hi, my name is Adam Cardenas, and I research psychedelic drugs through scientific studies and through experiences of those who have used them. Today, I'll show you what a psychedelic trip can do to a person's mind. Secondly, I'm going to explain how and why these trips occur, and lastly, explain the long-term effects, if any. It only takes one trip to forever alter a person's mind. A psychedelic experience is a journey to new realms of consciousness. This quote comes from Timothy Leary. According to Timothy Leary, the author of the psychedelic experience, these drugs can completely change the way your body functions, specifically the nervous system. He describes it as the chemical key. Timothy Leary advocated for psychedelic drugs and used them often. He shares his first ever experience with them, stating, "I learned more about psychology in the first hours of taking these mushrooms than in the 15 years of studying and doing research in psychology." That same trip, he described experiencing evolution all over again, from the start of time to believing he was the first ever living being. He was a strong believer in that everybody would experience the same evolution trip with the use of psychedelics. Many people that use psychedelics say they do it for the experience, but many of them are not aware of how they actually function. According to David E. Nichols, in his scholarly article, Psychedelics, the name psychedelics for the substances was first coined by Humphrey Osmond in 1957, connoting that they have a mind manifesting capability revealing useful or beneficial properties of the mind. David E. Nichols is a doctor at the Eshelman School of Pharmacy from the University of North Carolina. Although there are many different variations of psychedelics out there, the most commonly known drug is LSD. Dr. Nichols explains that the chemical structure of LSD is very similar to that of the serotonin, which is a hormone that stabilizes our moods, affects our feelings of well-being and happiness. Two research from 1959, William Shaw proposed that the effects of LSD were caused by an interference with the action of serotonin in the brain. The science behind it is very complicated, but keeping it short, basically these psychedelic drugs ultimately have to do with the disturbance and agonist activity against a specific serotonin hormone, serotonin 5-HT2A receptors. These trips can last anywhere from 6 to 12 hours, with some lasting for days. Effects include experiencing hallucination, audio-visual synesthesia, a neurological phenomenon in which a sound stimulus can elicit a visual experience, and the other effects include derealization and depersonalization phenomena. My last point answers the question on if these drugs are bad for you. And the answer is that there really isn't any evidence that indicates them being harmful. According to Michael Pollan, a professor at Harvard University, many of the more recent studies on the proposed harms of LSD and other hallucinogens draw on data from 1950s and 60s. These studies had a lot of problems, methodological problems, which kind of makes them invalid now. He also claims to have not read any death reports that included LSD overdose. He mentions that the results of 2 large-scale studies suggest that people are less likely to have mental health problems when they use LSD compared to those who have not used LSD. He does mention that people can experience psychotic breaks or bad trips. These bad trips can sometimes be very harmful and even fatal. Psychedelic drugs, to say the least, affect everybody differently. Only those who have first-handedly experimented with them, first-handedly experimented with psychedelic drugs, can fully understand the effects. Many people have shared their own personal experiences, but science still has quite not been able to depict why people experience what they do. Although we understand that it has something to do with the interference with the hormone serotonin, it is described more of a spiritual experience, if anything. I do not advocate for the use of drugs, but I believe this is something beyond just science. Thank you.